This is the official EFL Podcast.
Hello again and welcome to the official EFL Podcast. On this week's edition of the show, we're speaking to a man whose playing career began all the way back in 1994. But this summer he signed a new one-year deal which will see him play on past his 41st birthday. That man is Crawley Town centre midfielder Dannie Bulman, who joins us on the line now while beginning his first day back of another pre-season. Danny, first of all, how does it make you feel to have the title of the EFL's oldest player?
No, it's just, I've never looked at it as a number, not really bothered about it. And that's the way I see it, you know. It's not going to change, so I'll just carry on till I can, really.
Do you get credit for it? Do you get stick when you're playing? What's the sort of like the feedback that you get when people will know that about you?
It depends who you talk to, really. It's either you get a drumming for being that whole pensioner, you know, when's your bus pass and all that, you know, and others are like, how the hell have you lasted this long? You know, they want to retire when they're 30 and stuff like that. So it depends who you talk to and what response you get, really.
I want to take you back to the beginning when you made your debut, I think, for Rushford Town in 1994, was it? You know, what are your memories of that game?
Not many. I can't really remember.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly. I was about 15 and a half at the time. And I just remember playing for their Sunday team and then their youth team and somehow 15 and a half, I was playing sort of semi-pro sort of men's football, which was a laugh. I enjoyed it. It was playing football with painted decorators and, you know, probably got kids my age sort of thing, and it was just a fun time to sort of cut my teeth in football.
Just tell us though what football was like, you know, back then, you know, compared to what it is now. How does it contrast? I imagine at the time, you know, it's pretty physical. I imagine compared to what it is now, maybe.
Yeah, it was weird, obviously, because I was 15 and a half and I sort of first went into men's football. So if I got clouted, then I had 10 other men sort of surrounding the player that done it. So they was pretty protected over me, and you know, and they were big bloody bastards as well. So it was good to have that sort of backing. But yeah, obviously that standard of football wasn't the greatest, and sort of moved on when I was 18. And yeah, it's so much more technical now in terms of ability and sort of fitness. It's going through the roof. You know, today I'm back first day of pre-season. We're doing all tests, jump tests, you know, you name it. And you know, when I went my first pre-season, it was just run around that tree and do some push-ups sort of thing. So it's changed massively. Yeah,
I'm guessing the culture around football clubs as well has changed massively in that time, has it?
Yeah, not for the good. Sometimes, you know, obviously. I remember there was a big, I wouldn't say big drinking culture, but, you know, they're all sort of grown men, so they all like to drink. And it was, you know, weren't going out and getting absolutely levered. It was just a sort of social aspect. And there was much more of a sort of team spirit within that, because you knew each other, not just through work, but, you know, outside the place as well. And I think nowadays a lot of people travel quite far from their place, you know, where they live and to work sort of thing. And back in the day, it was, you know, if you signed for whoever, you went to live there, you know. And I think that's gone away from it a little bit now. I don't know if that's the bloody price of housing these days, and especially around where we are, you know, and if you come back down from north and stuff like that, it can be very expensive. But I think that's taken a big impact into the team spirit of, you know, certain clubs that I've been at.
I just want to take you back as well to the beginning of your EFL career itself at Wycombe in 1998. Can you just first tell us, how did that move come about for you?
Well, basically, I had a this big Irish centre half. He was a prison guard. This local. I lived at Feltham Remand Centre, and his good friend was sort of chief scout at Wycombe Wanderers, and he said, "Oh, you need to have a look at this kid." Went down for a trial, played a couple of games. I remember one game. I think it was Stevenage away. It was my first game. Like, everyone was in their tracksuits. I turned up in my rascal sort of suit, as it were, sort of, baggy as hell. Looked, stood out like a sore thumb. And
the style's changed as well, hasn't it, since then?
Yeah, mine hasn't. But the team ball went up, and my name was there. Like that, I was like, where the hell am I playing? I play centre mid. I went to the manager. I was quite sheepish back then, and actually coming into a brand new dressing room, I went to the manager. I said, I play centre mid. I don't play there. And he just turned around and goes, "You play where I tell you." So yeah, that was a good introduction to that, and I think I scored that game. I was playing up front, believe it or not, and that was under John Gregory, and was literally going to sign, and then about a week later he got a move to Aston Villa, so that fell through for a couple of months until the new manager came in and sort of picked up where he sort of left off. Had a couple more games, a bit more training, and they signed me for a massive £10,000
which is a lot of money to some people, but in football terms doesn't actually come across as a lot, does it?
No, but it worked out great for both parties. Obviously I got my first taste of professional football. My first job, as it were. Rushford Town got to build a stand, so that means they could get promoted out of the league they were in. And the manager didn't want me to go at all. He was like, he thought I could do better, the better club, because he thought that highly of me. But it was just a good, it was 7 leagues, I think, the jump. So it was a good stepping stone.
And yeah, you said the stepping stone. What was the step up like when you first started to get into that Wycombe team?
Yeah, it was mental. It was my first proper pre-season. I remember waking up early in the morning with my dad at like 5, 6 in the morning. I used to go running with him, just get, I'm a fit guy anyway, but I've never done a pre-season, a professional pre-season. When I was at Ashford, it was a Tuesday and a Thursday night. So I wanted to be prepared as I could. Obviously, you're never going to be, never know what's going to happen. So it was just weird. I was so quiet. My nickname was Spooky because I had big blue eyes, and I just used to look at people with a sort of startled look on my face and wouldn't say anything because there was back then it was all about characters and different personalities. So I was very quiet and just worked really hard. And I remember I got on the bench a couple of games, and I think it was maybe the 10th game into the season. I came on against Bristol Rovers in the 90th minute. We hadn't won a point all season, so like 10 games in or whatever. 90th minute came on, don't know why, and I just charged down the keeper. Ball smacked against my arse and flew in the back of the net, and that was the first points of the season. And it was crazy. And I had a few more sort of games. They were sort of playing me up front because I had loads of energy, would run around like a Tasmanian devil sort of thing. But it sort of caught up with me where obviously I came from quite a lower league, so sort of pitted out, fitness wise and sort of like stamina wise, and obviously I was playing up front out position, so sort of pitted out and managed to stay up that season, but I didn't really play to the back end. I think new manager came in, and then it took me a good 6 months to sort of come out myself, sort of thing. And I think the big part of that was the assistant manager was Terry Gibson. He was just really chatty, really friendly, and always wanted to put an arm around your shoulder and tell you doing good, tell you doing wrong in that way, and I went on from there. He compared me to John Major to Bill Clinton. He used to be John Major, now he's Bill Clinton. Sort of quite loud and sort of one in the dressing room at last. So it was a big part of my development.
It sounds like you found your voice there, and you made some of your best memories, of course, in your career were at Wycombe. What were the highlights for you?
Yeah, obviously Liverpool in the FA Cup semi-final was probably the pinnacle of it all. I think it was at Aston Villa, a neutral ground. Lots of Owen, Fowler, Heskey, Carragher, Gerrard came on. It was just mental. I had about 50 family and friends in the crowd, and it really was just a blur. I couldn't tell you how I played or anything like that. It was just remember standing on the kickoff and Robbie Fowler and Michael Owen are taking kickoff. I'm looking around and saying, "What's going on here?" sort of thing. It was just that was a good time, and it was just a great dressing room full of characters, full of sort of men back in that day, and I had a good relationship with my midfield partners, and it was a good time.
And you played under plenty of managers there, but could we focus on Tony Adams? What was it about him that didn't work for you at the club, based on what I've read about your opinion of him?
Yeah, it was just a weird way. It was just he came like we were. Who was it? John Gorman was caretaker manager. Sorry, and we were down the bottom. But he came in and he got us playing well and a bit of belief. And like, do you know what? We can get out of there. We can get out of this. We can, escape relegation sort of thing. And then Tony Adams came in, and the first thing he said to us was, we're down, so this is where I want to play. We're down anyway. So everyone was looking around at each other like, what? That we didn't want them words to come. We wanted to sort of big us up, not sort of tell us we're down already. So that was the first sort of moment that sort of put everyone's nose out of joint. And it's just meetings you had with him. He couldn't look you in the eye, and he couldn't explain to you properly. And he pulled me both. I was quite a box-to-box midfielder, and he didn't want me making too many runs and stuff like that. And it was sort of stifled me a little bit, and sort of slowly pitted out of the team, and ended up leaving, sort of thing. So it was a tough time, because there was a lot of players, very good players, that got released at the same time as me. So it was a tough time.
Yeah, and of course you went on to play for Stevenage after that, and you dropped out of the EFL. How difficult was that for you at the time? After making it as a football league footballer at the time, and then having to drop back down.
Yeah, that was really tough. I just assumed, I'll get picked up. Someone would be in for me. I've got over 200 League One games under my belt. I'm somebody in my league or below, or would sort of come knocking. And I remember I had an agent at the time, useless agent, and they said to me, "Oh, do you want to go and trial at Yeovil?" I was like, "I don't need to go and trial," sort of thing. Like, why would I do that? A trial game, that's what you do when you're 16 or whatever, trying to get a club like that. So I was a bit sort of not big-headed or anything like that, but it was sort of
you believed in your ability, I suppose.
Yeah, I believed that I could still stay at sort of Wycombe, so that was a bit of pill to swallow. But heard through someone about Stevenage, went to meet the manager, Graham Wesley, which was an absolute joy. He's a character in himself, and actually I got really well with him, and he's a hard worker, and I'm a hard worker, so it sort of worked fine.
After spending that time out of the EFL at that point, did you ever think that you would get back there? Did you have that belief that you weren't obviously good enough to be a Football League player at the time?
Yeah, I don't think it was never like I need to be back there. I need to be back there. I when I was at Rushford Town, I just wanted to play football. I love playing football. That's all I wanted to do. I didn't know you could make money out of it and stuff like that. I thought it was just a hobby. And back then it wasn't all about the money, as it is now, sort of thing, splashed over all the back of the tabloids. This man's on this much, blah blah blah. So I was sort of really naive to the fact when I went to sort of Wickham that you could make a career out of it. So it was to still be playing football and Stevenage is still a decent sort of level. So I just got me nut down and sort of tried the hardest I could, really.
And of course, you did eventually get back in the EFL with Oxford. What was that like, that promotion-winning season, under Chris Wilder, of course, as well?
Yeah, obviously that was my first promotion. And, at Wembley, there's no better way to finish off a season as a win at Wembley. And it was a really tough season because we started like a house on fire, top of the league, running away with it, and then winter came and frozen pitches just disrupted our season, disrupted our flow, and we could not find our flow for love nor money. Stevenage ran away with it, and we had to really pick ourselves back up for the playoffs again because we were sort of like the wheels had come off, as it were, and we really had to dig deep to get through those playoffs. And once I think we beat Rushford Diamonds in the playoff semi-finals. I think that's when we went to Wembley. There was no way we was going to lose that game, and we thoroughly deserved to get promoted that season.
And coming back, like I mentioned earlier, you played under Chris Wilder. How highly did you rate him at the time, and was it a surprise to see how well he's actually done in the game now, obviously taking Sheffield United to the Premier League last season?
I am, but I'm not, because I like him because he's old school. He loves a drink. He loves, the old school sort of factors, but he knows football as well. So I'm made up for him, and obviously he released me. Well, he let me go when we got back into the league. So I had to fight my way back into the league again with Crawley. But every time I see him, he's always really kind and open with me. And he said he regrets letting me go every time I see him, sort of thing. But I'm sure he doesn't regret it now. So he's got bigger, better things to worry about.
Did he have an influence on your career, though? Do you believe at the time? Obviously, taking you back to the EFL.
Yeah, I think because I don't know. It's just when a manager wants to sign you and they pinpointed you. I remember speaking to him before the end of the season, and he was just, he wanted me and goes, "This is what I want to do. I need you in my team. I need you to run the midfield." Blah blah blah, and he's very good at his trainings are top notch, and his detail into game is very good, and he's a good all round manager, and what he's done is brilliant, especially with his hometown team.
And then, of course, like you mentioned earlier, your second move to Crawley came about, didn't it? What was it like to be back at the club, and how did that move come about? Obviously, you've talked about earlier with the fact that you had to move back down to come back up, essentially.
Yeah, it was just I've never sat around at a club and not played. So the Chris Wilder came to me and said, "Right, we're going for a bit more youth. I respect you. I want to give you a heads up. If you can find another club on a longer contract, go for it, because I don't want to see you, struggling in the summer and stuff like that." And I think that was in maybe January sometime, maybe a bit earlier. And I don't know where it was. I think it might have been York away at the time. And I went, and he pulled me and said, "Crawley have come in. you know, they want you to play Sunday, blah, blah, blah. This was a Friday. So I got the train back and went to Crawley Summer Papers and didn't even train with them, played Sunday, and that was the rest of it, really. And yeah, I love my time at Crawley. The first time I went there, I was sort of not out. I loved the game. I was not playing at Stevenage at the time, and I needed to be playing again. And the manager and the staff and the players were brilliant. They got me back in love with the game again, playing with a smile on my face. So that's why I've always loved playing for Crawley.
And of course, you had so much success in that second spell, didn't you? Winning those two promotions. You know, just tell us what was so special about that team, and for you getting back up to League One. What was that like?
Yeah, obviously we had amazing players, but we had amazing characters as well. You know, we had players that were on the fringes, but they were a big part of the dressing room. So even though they weren't in the squad, weren't in the team, they were always there and part of it. There wasn't poison. There was just everyone was in it together, and it was Steve Evans sort of makes a changing room where it's almost like, let's do it not for him, but like to spite him, because he's gonna bloody kick off if we don't win or we don't do this sort of thing. So they sort of brought the team together in terms of like, you know what, screw you, we're gonna win, we're gonna stop you having a heart attack every half time, every full time. So it's sort of brought us so much together, and the team spirit was the best I've sort of been with, really.
And for you at that time, was that the peak of your career at the time? Was that when your ability was, you know, at its absolute peak?
I'm not sure, really. It was just a.
I suppose it's hard to think about with your career still going on.
Yeah, no, it was a funny sort of part of my career, because obviously I got promoted I think I got 3 promotions in 3 years. With obviously with Oxford, then went to Crawley, got 2 there, and yeah, no, it was just a amazing sort of 3 years where, you know, to be a footballer and to win stuff is not hard to. It's very hard to come by. So to do it 3 years on the bounce was amazing, and it was just, I wouldn't say it was the best I played. It was just the best I felt.
And you mentioned it as well, to work under Steve Evans, quite a character in the game, of course, very recognisable, and I would say not very liked by opposing teams, but he really has a siege mentality, doesn't he, as a manager when you are playing for him, I suppose?
Yeah, and yeah, you know, I don't know if it's by luck or judgment. It's just, you know, when he's shouting on the pitch at the sideline, it sometimes takes the attention off the opposition, you know. So they're like, what's he screaming at? And you're down the other end, sort of putting the ball in the back of the net. So I don't know if that's, like I said, luck or judgment, but yeah, he's got a knack of getting promotions and putting a very good squad together that's very competitive.
And then just tell us about the move to Wimbledon then after that, another club where you gained promotion, another promotion there. What was that like for you playing for that team at the time? I think it comes across with Wimbledon that you've got quite a special connection from players to supporters as well there.
Yeah, I think because obviously it's a fans' row club, and it just everyone knows everyone, so everyone's sort of pulling in the right direction. You know, they've come from nothing and built it to what it is today, and obviously they're looking to move into player lanes and take it even further. And it's just an honour to play for them, really. And Neil Ardley was sort of tracking me for 2-3 years to sign, but they were struggling at the bottom of League Two at the time, and I was sort of playing in League One with Crawley, and I didn't want to take that sort of step down. And one summer came, and I think John Greger at the time wanted to cut my wages and said I wasn't going to be playing so much, so I decided to look elsewhere, and the first person I was to call was Neil Ardley, and yeah, he couldn't wait to sign me. So the sort of rest is history. And yeah, we had a good season. My first season wasn't great. We done better than they usually did, but and then the season after that we sort of rocked Wimbledon at Wembley again with Wimbledon.
And then of course now back at Crawley again for the third time. Did you ever think that you would have joined for a third spell after the second spell? Obviously, you said about your connection with the club, that you've got now, but. I mean, at that stage of your career, to be joining the club for a third time at the age you were at, did you imagine you would be given an opportunity like that at that stage?
Yeah. Oh, I've always had sort of faith in my sort of ability and what I give on and off the pitch, sort of thing. And some say it goes under the radar. The shitty stuff of the game, shall we say, that I try and do, and no, I'm not a world beater. I know that, and I know my limitations. So I think that's what makes me a good player. That I'm a team player, and that's why probably I've stayed in the game for so long.
How's your role changed? From the beginning in terms of your presence on the pitch, I suppose. How has that changed from the beginning to where you are now?
It's just experience really. You sort of you can anticipate where the ball's going to go, or what pass you can cut out and stuff like that. And when you're 18, you're just running around like a headless chicken trying to get the ball of players, and it'd be nice to know if I had the experience at a young age when I could run like a lunatic and so I think it's experience, that's all really. And if I had it at a young age, I might have had a better career, but hey ho.
But how much do you still enjoy it? I take it's I suppose it's all you've ever known, isn't it, playing football? But to be a League Two footballer at the age you are, you must still love playing because, like we said earlier, it's your first day of pre-season today. That can't be easy, can it?
No, I mean, if you speak to every player, it's that nerves before the first, the build up to the first day, as you anticipate, but it's never nice. But it's to come into a changing room, banters flying, everyone's having a laugh. Who would not want to do that for as long as they can? It's like a boys' brigade, and it's just hanging around your mates playing football. And if you could do that for as long as possible, then why not? It's everyone says you're a long time retired as a footballer, so I'm trying not to retire just yet.
We've got a few questions in from some supporters after putting out that you actually are appearing on the podcast this morning. We've got one from Wimbledon themselves, actually, the club themselves. What are your memories of scoring against Luton in 2015? A screamer at the time, the second goal of the match. Can you remember that moment?
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah, I remember because I had my brand new Nike Copas on, black ones. They was lovely. They were. I think the ball came out to me on the edge of the box. I think I took a touch on my knee and I sort of swazzed it top hand corner, sort of bent it in, and it was a bit of a screamer. It was nice.
Matt has messaged in as well and said, "How many boots have you worn in your career?" Just thought it's quite seamless that you mentioned your boots there.
Yeah, it's. I don't know. Every footballer loves new boots, so I get through quite a few. Once they overstretched a bit, then I like to get a new pair. So yeah, I go through probably maybe 15, 20 a season. So
15, 20 a season. So
times that 22.
Times by 22. Oh, maths on the spot. We'll have to work that one out after, I think.
Yeah.
And finally, from the fans, do you think you'll outlast Kevin Ellison at Morecambe? That's a question from James there, who's messaged into us.
Yeah, so he's just signed a new deal. It's just every time I see him, he wants me to pack up. So I think he wants it more than I do, to be honest. But I don't know. Maybe we should retire together, and when we're bald, and I know he is already bald, so we can't really do that. So no, it's just one of those things, and he's a good character in the game as well. So I think as long as he stays in the game, I think it's good for everyone.
Did it surprise you though that you were offered that 1 year extension when you get to 40? Obviously, the outside looking in people are thinking, you must be past it. But I take it for you, a lot of players that I've heard have actually said, when they get to a certain age in their career, they're actually, in terms of their footballing ability, they're at the best.
Yeah, I think it's like I don't feel 40, so and everyone who sees me, everyone new players come in, no chance you're 40, stuff like that. It's just because I'm a kid at heart, I muck around all the time, and football keeps me young, so it's something I love doing, so I want to carry on doing it.
If you could tell us in that time though, what is your most memorable moment if you look back at your career now, or the most memorable story that you've got that you can reveal to us, obviously, as clean as possible?
Memorable story. Okay, clean. When was it?
I'm putting you on the spot here.
No, there was a good one at Morecambe away under Steve Evans. Where so before the game, it's Morecambe away, so it's like, right guys, we're gonna get fish and chips after the game. What do you fancy? Blah blah blah. Get your orders in. Come in after the game, we lost 5-0. Long trip home. Steve Evans is at the front, foaming at the mouth. He's like, right, no food for you lot. We weren't allowed to eat the food. And Scott Nielsen, I don't know if you remember him, he's a cheeky chappy. I think it's Craig McAllister as well. They're at the back, just scoffing down fish and chips. He goes, oh, screw him. We're cracking on like that. So half an hour later, Gaffer sends up Rains and Paul Rayner, and he goes, right, go on, you can have your food if you want. Knock yourselves out. So we've all torn into the fish and chips. Rayner asked the gaffer if he wanted any, and he told him to F off or whatever like that. And about 20 minutes later, Rayner came up and goes, oh, where's Steve? Where's the manager's fish and chips? But they've all gone. And he lost his mind, like screaming everything, blah, 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 this, that, and the other, like sending Rains up, making him count all the cartons that the fish and chips came in, making sure that there was the right number, because we said, oh no, there must have been one less, blah, blah, blah. Scott Nielsen's just laughing his head off in the corner because he didn't care. End up getting back really late, and we was in about 7 o'clock on a Sunday. Had a meeting with the gaffer, and he was laughing and joking about it. So it was just funny at the time. Probably doesn't sound funny, but he was just losing his mind because he didn't get his fish and chips, and dragged us in at the crack of dawn on a Sunday morning.
Yeah, funny at the time, but I suppose at the time itself, when Steve Evans is going for it, I imagine that's at times not very fun.
No, it is, because we're all hid behind stuff and we're all niggling away sort of thing, but obviously it weren't fun going in a Sunday morning after a long journey.
Yeah, a bad punishment that, I suppose. And finally, do you think, your career now, how long do you think you can go on for, and what's next for you after your playing career? I'm guessing you get that asked to you quite often. What are you going to do after football, I suppose?
Yeah, realistically, I can't see it lasting too long. I've got to be realistic about that. But yeah, I still want to be part of football, and not sure what sort of part of football that is yet, either coaching or management or whatnot. I'm not really too sure, but hopefully I'll be hopefully to do something with Crawley would be good for me.
And I suppose that ending on a final promotion as well would really cap it off for you, wouldn't it?
Yeah, to get back in League One, Crawley would be amazing, and I think if we get a good start to the season, get a few more signings, I don't see why not. I think it's a very competitive league, but you can see the likes of Accrington a couple of years ago, and there's no blueprint to get promoted at this league. So I think the harder you work, you're lucky you get. So we can get us working really hard and add to the quality, then I don't see why we can't have a very successful season.
Well, Danny, thank you very much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your pre-season and, good luck in the rest of your career. Let's hope it lasts as long as possible.
Beautiful. Cheers for that, Ben.
The official EFL Podcast. The best reaction to all the match action. Available every week.